Formation of the power structures and policies in Crimea during the transition period, 2014 to 2016. Assist. Professor Dr. Victoria Demidova. Abstract. In March 2014, during political crisis in Ukraine, Russian troops invaded Ukraine through the eastern Crimea and annexed the Autonomous Republic of Crimea. Annexation was followed by the transition period when new institutions and legislation was crafted and new cadres were sent to Crimea from the mainland Russia. Local media, political parties, Ukrainian and Crimean Tatar organizations were shut down. This article concentrates on the period between 2014 and 2016 that was announced a transitional period for Crimea in Russia. The most important issues that required particular attention of Moscow were the formation of the institutions and legal framework, new appointments and political elites, coping with the protests and media freedom, conducting elections. This article argues that the main objective of Kremlin during the mentioned period was rapid and unobstructed inclusion of Crimea into the Russian Federation after the military invasion and annexation. While Moscow aimed at accelerated creation of the institutions and legislative base in Crimea, it filled Crimea with the Russian elites removing all local professionals. At the same time, Moscow not only neglected the issues of the human rights and position of non-Russian ethnic groups but also tried to prevent the emergence of the opposition voices. Author employs analysis of the legislation related to the transition period including analysis of the constitutions of Russia, Ukraine, 1998 and 2014 constitutions of Crimea, main official documents that molded new Crimea as well as the media content as data collection technique. Keywords: annexation, Crimea, Crimean Tatars, Russia, transition. Introduction. In January 1991, Crimean Autonomous Soviet Socialist Republic was restored in Crimea through the referendum. Soon after the breakup of the Soviet Union, the Autonomous Republic of Crimea was formed as a constituent entity of independent Ukraine. In 1992, Republic declared its independence that lasted till 1996 when the Constitution of Crimea was abolished. The biggest ethnic groups of Crimea were Russian, Ukrainian and the Crimean Tatar. In November 2013, Ukrainian President Yanukovych withdrew from the finalization of the association agreement between Ukraine and the European Union announcing the desire for closer relations with Russia-led customs union. Thousands of Ukrainians protested against this decision on Maidan Nezalezhnosti, Independence Square, 1 in Kiev. Following the splash of the political crisis in Ukraine, Crimea appeared to be against the Euromaidan movement. Oppositely, in Crimea, Russian-speaking population who wanted closer relations with Russia and official status of the Russian language in Ukraine organized anti-Maidan. At the same time, Western-oriented Crimean Tatars and Ukrainians of Crimea stood against pro-Russian foreign policy of Ukraine. Russian Federation, under the slogan of the compatriots' protection, used the power vacuum in Ukraine that occurred after the fled of the President Yanukovych, and started annexation. First, military forces without insignia entered the peninsula through the eastern Crimean town of Kerch where the ferry boat station is located. They moved to the central part of the peninsula and soon seized the building of the parliament in capital city Simferopol as well as the local TV and radio channel. By means of the so-called polite people too, peaceful and rapid annexation of Crimea was completed by the end of February. On March 14, 2014, 96.77% of Crimeans supported unification with the Russian Federation through the referendum. Referendum was recognized illegal according to the Ukrainian and international law. Malyshev, Z.A. Vosoedinany, 2014. 1. Main square in Kiev that gave the name to mass rallies, Euromaidan. 2. Or also Little Green Men, refers to masked soldiers of the Russian Federation in unmarked green army uniforms that were responsible for the annexation of Crimea. This article problematizes the transition period of 2014 to 2016 years in Crimea that followed annexation of the Republic and its inclusion into the RF when the Russian Federation had to secure smooth and fast transition of the region to the Russian legislation. This article focuses on the formation of the power institutions and elites, new legislation, establishment of the political parties, and sheds the light on the challenges this process posed to the Crimean Tatar and Ukrainian population of the region. Particularly, the author shows the attempts of the new Crimean government to cooperate with the Crimean Tatars and then to ban their activities. It is argued that the main objective of Kremlin during the mentioned period was rapid and unobstructed inclusion of Crimea into the Russian Federation. While Moscow aimed at accelerated creation of the institutions and legislative base in Crimea, it filled Crimea with the Russian elites removing all local professionals. Political parties that emerged in Crimea following the annexation were all Russian political parties. All local parties, Ukrainian parties, as well as the ones that represent the Crimean Tatars ceased to exist. At the same time, Moscow not only neglected the issues of the human rights and position and demands of the non-Russian ethnic groups but tried to prevent the emergence of the opposition voices. Thus, different tactics of cooperation and later divide and rule tactics as well as violent measures were used against the Crimean Tatars. Analysis of the legislation related to the transition period, including analysis of the constitutions of Russia, Ukraine, 1998 and 2014 constitutions of Crimea, main official documents that molded new Crimea, as well as the media content is utilized in the article as data collection technique. Particular focus was made on the cadre changes as well as regulations regarding media and different political and ethnic groups. Also, results of the 2014 Crimean parliamentary election and 2016 general election were studied. Study was limited to the period between February 2014 and December 2016 insofar as it is seen as a key period in terms of the inclusion of the region into the Russian Federation. In order to integrate Crimea into the Russian Federation, 3 sets of tasks were to be accomplished. Mikhail Delyagin, director of the Institute for Problems of Globalization, maintained, 2015. These included, first of all, supplies of food, water, and electricity to the region that had only ferry boat connection with the mainland Russia. Secondly, the legislation of the region was to be conformed to the Russian one. Finally, strategic goals of using Crimea economically and militarily were to be achieved. Delyagin, 2015, 12. By the end of 2016, as this study shows, previously mentioned tasks had not been accomplished yet. In his turn, Chatham House fellow Professor Nikolai Petrov, 2016, specified 3 issues characterizing the inclusion of the region into the Russian political and social system. Firstly, he noted that the transition period in Crimea revealed peculiarities of the Russian space. Furthermore, Crimean Spring was going to change not only the Russian Federation but also its policies. Moreover, relations between Simferopol and Moscow would evolve. Petrov, 2016, 75-76. Petrov pointed out the spheres that had become the focus of Kremlin's attention. He mentioned new cadres in Crimea, the establishment of the relations of the patrons and vassals between Crimea and other republics/regions of Russia, securing judicial power, establishing the Ministry of the Crimean Affairs, re-registration of the political parties, solving the Crimean Tatar issue and reconfiguration of the elites. Petrov, 2016. This article starts by discussing main institutions of power in Crimea followed by the analysis of the citizenship and legislation in Crimea. Then, new cadre appointments and political parties as well as 2014 regional election and 2016 Russian parliamentary election are discussed. Finally, concluding part sums up the main findings of the article. Conclusion. Following the political crisis in Ukraine in late 2013, beginning of 2014, a power vacuum emerged in the country. Under the slogan of the protection of the Crimean Russophones, Russian troops without signs on their uniforms invaded the Autonomous Republic of Crimea. Following the seizure of the local parliament and central broadcasting station by the polite people, Crimea's government announced its independence and, through the illegal referendum, secured its entrance into the Russian Federation. The period between 2014 and 2016 this article concentrates on is considered as transitional period insofar as the most important issues were to be addressed. As it was discussed in the article, the main objective of Kremlin during the period between 2014 and 2016 was rapid and unobstructed inclusion of Crimea into the Russian Federation. Success of this project would be a significant trump card in Russian domestic propaganda, first of all. Since the perception of Russia's foreign policy success is a tool for domestic mobilization. Crimea entered Russian Federation as a republic, and Sevastopol, as a city of the federal subordination. A new constitution was adopted and corresponding power structures were formed. Crimea received the position of the head of republic. This unobstructed inclusion of the region was possible due to the presence of the pro-Russian majority in Crimea. Particularly, this is seen in the composition of the Crimean parliament before the annexation. 80% of the 100-seat legislature was controlled by the pro-Russian party of regions. Key figures, responsible for annexation, such as Aksionov and Konstantinov, remained in their chairs. At the same time, no minorities, especially Crimean Tatar and Ukrainian, were allowed in Crimea. As it was the case in the eastern Ukrainian Donbas, Russian citizenship and passports became, first of all, a tool. On the one hand, Russian citizenship attracted many people who sought to live and work in the mainland Russia. On the other hand, in order to keep their jobs in Crimea, people had to accept Russian passports. The procedure omitted Crimeans outside of Russia that actually contradicted to the policy of compatriots' support. Russia and Ukraine entered the hybrid war on citizens through the numerous regulations and legislation. As to the freedom of media, it was severely limited in Crimea after the annexation. However, it is noteworthy that in the issue of media, Crimea is not different from the rest of Russia. Rather, Crimea was brought to the authoritarian Russian standards and legislation after 2014. At the same time, Kremlin managed to securitize the disobedience of the Ukrainians and the Crimean Tatars. As to the latter, when Kremlin's attempts to create pro-Russian political organizations of the Crimean Tatars failed, the law on extremism was used to ban Mejli and Crimean Tatar leadership. They were put on the same level with Al-Qaeda in their activities by provision mentioning terrorist activities. This not only switched the issue of the protests against the annexation from the political to the security level, but also helped to get rid of the numerous organizations through their banning. The coordination center of the Crimean Tatars was removed from the Crimea that weakened their activities. Later, through the searches and arrests, Kremlin would threaten people even more. In the Katar policies of Moscow in Crimea, one can trace the special attention given to the Siloviki groups. The region was staffed with the representatives of the law-enforcing agencies from the mainland Russia. Part of the appointments were made by Aksyonov himself, and Kremlin was satisfied insofar as the responsibility for possible omissions would be on the Crimean leadership. New cadres that came from the mainland Russia had often no knowledge about the regional peculiarities and often were involved into the scandals over the corruption. Political parties registered in Crimea in the mentioned period included only the regional branches of the all-Russian parties, such as United Russia, Just Russia, LDPR, and others. Local parties, such as Russian Unity or Russian Bloc, as well as All-Ukrainian Party of Regions, Crimean Branch, ceased to exist since they were registered according to Ukrainian legislation. Their members entered United Russia Party mostly. Ukrainians and Crimean Tatars associated with the Mejli did not obtain any representation in the Crimean parliament. Only, pro-Russian Tatars who supported annexation and entered Russian political parties received the representation. Also, 6 Crimean politicians were elected to the Russian State Duma. By mid-2016, Crimea was deprived of its special status and included into the Southern Federal District. That signified the end of the transition period actually and the end of the special treatment for the region. The latter included new Katar policies, significant finances, and rhetoric. Crimea is ours, Krym Nash. It also became a very suitable occasion to get rid of the unfavorable appointees. In the following years, Moscow and Crimean government would address the issues of transportation, to be solved through the Kerch Bridge, water, security in the Black Sea,